Well, hello everyone. Some of you may know me from that big ugly rant I did about BethesdaNet and how they were letting mod piracy go on and how they pretty much were unwilling to protect the intellectual property of mod authors, forcing the mod authors to send full-on DMCA copyright claims. We're not talking about the YouTube automated claims either. Literally, if you are a mod author and you find your mod uploaded to BethesdaNet without your say-so, containing your assets and anything else that is your intellectual property, you actually have to send a legal notice. And I talked about Bethesda's stance on the whole thing, keeping in mind that it really wasn't Bethesda, it was ZeniMax, since ZeniMax administrates the whole thing in the first place. But still, we're getting off track here. I think the point here is that I feel very strongly about the rights of mod authors, or should I say authors in general, because in my spare time I have been a writer for a few things. And while I am no lawyer, consult your own, do not take this as legal advice, but I do know a little something about intellectual property law. Now originally I thought I was going to talk about the Skyrim mod called The Floating Market, and how it was a collection of other mod authors' works, and how the alleged mod author supposedly took down the video that MXR put up. MXR is a mod reviewer. He usually hypersexualizes his characters, you know, tits and ass. I don't have a problem with tits and ass. It's just some people do, apparently. So this particular mod author, if what we hear is to be believed, sent MXR a copyright takedown strike on his video, showcasing the mod. And the reason was to protect the mod authors whose assets were used in this mod. Anyway, since then, as far as I can tell, the files are gone off the author's page. The file for the actual floating markets is disabled. And apparently, according to a line MXR put in, this particular mod author is taking MXR to court, or has expressed interest in taking MXR to court over this. Now, for those of you asking, well, isn't it just fair use that he's reviewing her mod? And the answer is absolutely. Now, with playthroughs and other things, it's sometimes ambiguous. Fair use usually hinges on using the absolute minimum of the author's original work in order to get the point across. Fair use is used for either reviews or satire. Now, what MXR is doing with these mods is indeed a review show. So you can't squelch reviews. It's not within your legal right. You can try, and in this case, you are physically able to. But if this goes to court, my suspicion, and keep in mind I am not a lawyer, my suspicion is that ultimately MXR will win and have a huge opening for a countersuit. That's all nasty business, and I don't recommend it, but you don't go around just randomly taking down people's stuff because they showcased something you don't like. You don't have a say in whether someone else profits from showcasing your thing, because your thing has been released to the public and is therefore open to public scrutiny and review. It doesn't matter if the product is free or not. Review is an extension of right to free speech. By squelching someone else's free speech in an attempt to keep information suppressed, you're committing a crime. If not a crime in the legal sense, then certainly a crime in the civil sense, as you are dealing damage to MXR's person for no discernible reason other than your feelings were hurt. Again, I wanted to go into this in a lot more depth, but the floating market's been taken down. MXR doesn't seem to want to talk about it, mainly because there's probably pending litigation. And I'd highly recommend MXR go see this guy, who is a really interesting copyright attorney who likes to make YouTube videos about various topics. He does live streams, things like that, and it's always very interesting to see his fairly well-informed opinions on modern topics. and I don't think he's talked about modding very much yet. So I think this is something I'd like to see him cover in theory. But unfortunately, the floating gardens will not be my topic for the day. This was just something I wanted to cover really quick, that it's happening, and it's something that needed to be acknowledged that it's happening. As I said earlier, I am very interested in protecting the intellectual property rights of mod authors. That said, obviously, this mod author is in the wrong. But another mod author who is also in the wrong today is the author of Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons. Yes, indeed. This one is a doozy. This mod author has a presence on YouTube with some podcast-style audio blogs put into YouTube format, which aren't that bad, actually. I found them decent listening while I was working on a menial task. Not much worse than the average podcast I listen to. But some of the high points came off as extremely pretentious. Of course, I'm calling him pretentious when I made a series called What If Oblivion Was Good, What If Skyrim Was Good, What If Morrowind Was Good, so on. So, yeah, I'm a hypocrite. But that's okay. The problem here is with Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons. This particular mod author, if we scroll down the list, specifically down to review permissions. All reviewers are welcome to reviewing my mod except for the YouTuber known as MXR. I'm sorry, Sisypheus, but you do not actually have the legal right to deny specific persons the right to review your mods. This would be like a video game developer going, well, we know Jim Sterling and Total Biscuit are totally going to rail on our game. Total Biscuit's going to rail on it for this reason. Jim Sterling's going to rail it on for this reason. So we're going to deny them the right to review our game. They can't do that. That's discrimination. And even if it weren't discrimination, it still infringes upon their right to place review and satire of other things. Just because it offends you, the person, does not give you the right to deny its existence. As I said before, reviews even on products that are put forth for free still stand. So maybe it's not a consideration of it, is it worth your money? But it might be a consideration, is it worth your time? Or is it worth the effort to install? Or would it cause issues? Is it stupid? These are all considerations that are put forth when installing a mod, when using any kind of free product. You may not see it as a product, but it is something that is packaged and put forth. And you can't see it as anything else if you want to protect your intellectual property rights on it. And you do have intellectual property rights. People are not allowed to create derivative works of Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons if you don't give them permission to. Now, game mechanics cannot be patented. What this means is if someone wants to, from scratch, create a whole new version of Tinvaak, knowing that Tinvaak, the word, comes from Skyrim, and Bethesda has given people blanket permissions to make things with their game, provided that is a mod for the game. We know that this person has been given that blanket permission by Bethesda. I mean, all we have to do is look at Bethesda's video policy to know that Tinvaak, the dragons, the Skyrim assets, all of that is contained within their blanket permissions that they have available for anyone to create videos or Let's Plays, instructional videos, videos showcasing their modding tools, and fan service tributes using gameplay and music. In other words, they're okay with it being on YouTube or your personal blog or wherever. So someone could, in theory, re-engineer this from scratch, doing it better or worse, and then it wouldn't be a derivative work. We resemble but are legally distinct from the Lollipop Guild. Just a little Futurama joke. So, having created derivative work with blanket permission, it doesn't immediately grant you any other rights other than standard copyright. And standard copyright does not protect you from review. It doesn't allow you to single out who can review your stuff. Now, this particular author went ahead and posted an article on March 14th regarding Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons. If you don't really pay attention to this article, and you get caught up on a couple early comments and concepts, you're probably going to agree with the article. I mean, I was disappointed with Skyrim on some level. I still put 2.5k hours into the game. So having started with Arena, I saw every aspect of Arena get better in the form of Daggerfall. Daggerfall was the Arena that we wanted. It was a fantasy life simulator. To see that get dumbed down in the form of Morrowind. Yes, the graphics were extremely improved, but we were presented with the stripping away of features and the repurposing of mechanics. I prefer Morrowind's NPCs to Daggerfall, but it was a dumbing down on some level. Just like going from Morrowind to Oblivion was a dumbing down of a whole nother level because they stopped giving a shit about the story. He said it himself, they're going for a Lord of the Rings atmosphere. They're more or less trying to copy Tolkien. But gods above, if Skyrim isn't bland, he said. I agree completely. And I think these are the starting points where he starts talking about the story. And I agree with him. And that's, again, looking at his YouTube channel, like, you can see I actually watched the Fairy Tale one twice, believe it or not. The second time to post my comment, but watch is an odd word when we actually just listen to it and not watch it. But the point is, I had it on my third monitor, it was playing, and I agreed with about 80% of everything this guy said in all of his videos. That's pretty amazing. Now, he eventually started hitting these righteous moral points where I was like, nope. And that's, I think, when he got, I want to say pretentious. I misused the word moral. I meant to say pretentious points. And that's, again, where I was like, that 20% where I don't agree with him, that's where I feel that he's speaking from either a place of ignorance or a very narrow point of view. Now, I've covered in other videos the idea of cinematic storytelling versus other storytelling. I've talked about the Elder Scrolls canon, and I actually put that to bed. I won't be talking about the Elder Scrolls canon in any future videos. You can go check it out. I think it's like 1 or 2 videos ago. But it's something I don't intend on discussing anymore. My point, however, is that I agree with this guy on so many points. Like right here, he says the puzzles that a 5-year-old could complete, a chimpanzee could figure out in a foam-padded dungeon. Yeah, pretty much. The thing is, people try to justify it in the lore, but it's garbage either way. I mean, I can only smile when I look at the unconfirmed hostile acquisition of small games companies, seen that. The deal with Obsidian not being paid in full because of the Metacritic score, saw that. ZeniMax trying to kill the Oculus Rift, there's so much wrong with that Oculus Rift deal, and I really hope that Carmack can recover from this, because he was a tremendous individual, and I realize that some guy named Rump may have poisoned that term, tremendous individual, but that's really what John Carmack was, and I really hope that he can recover from that, because he does not deserve to have his passion project used to destroy the company he was working for. That's just garbage. I mean, we got the 200 Fallout 3 endings, you can affect the economy, and, I mean, everyone should be required to sit down. Anytime anyone is ever hyped about a Bethesda thing that is going to come out, they should be required to sit down and watch the Oblivion E3 demo, where he explains that these sequences are not scripted, and then you see a whole scripted sequence that isn't in the final game. You see Thunder the dog, and all of the details. You see a Dunmer that actually talked like Dunmer did in Morrowind. And you see all of that out the window by the time Oblivion came. But my point is that anyone who's hyped about anything Bethesda related needs to watch that video in order to sober up. It's like having a prairie oyster, to cure a hangover. Your hype will get cured by remembering what Todd Howard has promised in the past versus what you actually get. And this is where we see the mod author more or less jump off the deep end, where he explains that the highest endorsed mods are simple titillation, bikini armors, female nude mods, ridiculously revealing clothing, obviously for women, and more female nude mods. Well, I kind of agree with that, because I have Better Males installed, which is a better male body mod. Obviously, for the purposes of streaming and recording, I have the Never Nude preset set. Nobody actually cares. I mean, I play Daggerfall all the time, and Daggerfall has bare breasts. Twitch doesn't care because it's not the focus of the stream. I'm like, God damn it, every time I re-equip something and it doesn't cover a nipple, I'm like, I gotta fix that, But my point here is I've never had a problem with titillation. Tits and ass are something that I like, but, I actually once said that I want to see a skimpy male armor replacer to go with the skimpy female armor replacer. And what I want to see is I want to see them applied to Nords only, because Nords have extreme cold resistance as part of the lore. I could actually see justified, because remember, in Solstheim, you had men running around topless. They were just running around in Solstheim, in the frozen regions near Castle Kurstag or whatever. They were berserkers. They became one with the cold, more or less. So we've already established in the lore that Nords can run around without shirts on in the freezing wilderness. That isn't a problem. I would restrict that skimpy armor specifically to Nords, because it would be fucking hilarious. And I would have it applied liberally to both males and females. There really aren't that many skimpy male armor mods, and there aren't replacers. That's the problem I have, is if I'm looking for equality in skimpification, there are tons of options for safe for work. By that I mean safe for streaming, non-explicit armors for women, whereas the ones for men are explicit. They usually show the genitals, and that's something that won't work for streaming. So obviously there is an inequality in what people are seeking. There are far less women who actually want these titillating armors and whatnot. Now, I did actually make a succubus build for Skyrim. The video will be linked in a pinned comment, no problem. But yeah, the particular lady who asked for this said, I play a succubus, don't judge me. Can you make one that's lore friendly? And I did, a dark seducer, which is the closest thing. It's more or less an over-the-top version of the Daedric seducers you see in Shivering Isles. If you go back to Daggerfall, they're women that walk around and all of a sudden their clothes burst off and they get bat wings. And they're crazy, they're scary. But those are the kind of creatures that you saw in Daggerfall and Battlespire, earlier Elder Scrolls games. So it's not like a skimpified armor, Daedric crescent-wielding crazy bitch who likes to seduce people doesn't actually exist in the lore. Oddly enough, at least one particular lady came to me and asked me to make a build for it. And so I did. And that just proves that, if you think that having these skimpy armors or this sexualized nature is instantly anti-women, then hashtag not all women. That comes into the next part, which is the alienation of women from the modding community, over sexualizing content, so on and so forth. And the number one mods of the month, and he goes over this list, where he said, the Step Project, No More Blocky Faces, Skyrim 2K, FXAA, and then nude females. But then he actually said he had it backwards. So nude females are the number one sought after mod, and that's because your demographic. I really like the Better Bodies installer for Morrowind. It was part of the Morrowind gameplay overhaul. I actually did a video on that. I think it was called Modernizing Morrowind. Anyway, in it, you had an option. You had regular bodies, you had nude bodies, or you had nude females only. If you moused over nude females only, it said for insecure teenage boys only. I believe that's what it was. It was just funny because, the person was acknowledging that, yes, this is an option for you if that's the kind of titillation you want, but we're going to mock you for it, obviously. But something that doesn't come to mind with a lot of people is that titillation is connected to sex. And sex is pretty much at the forefront of what we do. If not for overt reasons, then for more subtle reasons. I mean, you try to be successful at your job so you can get more money, so you can live a comfortable life. And if you're following the standard by which people are supposed to live their life, then that means you need to get married and have kids. More money means you're more attractive, and it can make up for a lack of being attractive. This isn't true for everybody. Hashtag not all humans. This is a generalization because it's mostly true, but not completely true. Some people whom I know want nothing to do with either. Good for them. But they are the minority. I mentioned this earlier. I really like a game called Onichambra. It plays kind of like Devil May Cry meets Dynasty Warriors in a weird way. You just hack and slash the crap out of things. It stars vampire girls and demon girls in bikinis, more or less. It's tits and ass. It's titillation, as this guy wants to put it. And you know what? I'd be fine with the game even if it were fully clothed people. In fact, there's an option to throw different costumes on them. Some which have no sex appeal whatsoever. I'm fine with that. Because the game itself is fun regardless. And the best thing about these mods is that you can make your games however you want. One of my earliest YouTube videos, I showcased a rape mod just to show how far the modding community has come with content that would shock you. And shock value is very powerful because it inspired a lot of discussions which were very interesting to hear people talk about how, this is damaging to society by being here. Oh, no, it's a reasonable outlet for some people. You're just sick and depraved. Just hearing the conversations back and forth and taking note about everyone's differing perspectives made the video worthwhile. It's since been taken down from YouTube because of obvious community guidelines changes. They became a lot more strict, and I'm fine with that. I have no desire to ever resurrect the run because it was what it was. It generated a certain level of discussion, and when the discussion faded, all that were left were perverts. Don't care. They have their own mods that they can use. Doesn't affect me. But now I think somewhere the fact that humans, well, specifically men, typically seek out sex more than anything else, and therefore sex mods would be at the forefront. That being more popular than his mods or the mods he likes has somehow caused the community to be dead or damaged. despite the fact I'm a patron of Chesco. Chesco updated wearable lanterns. Chesco, he made Frostfall, he made Campfire, and he's working on Last Siege right now. Join his Discord. Talk to him. Tell him that the modding community's dead, because it's not. You say it's obvious there's something a little fucked up by the Nexus rating system, and you say it's a matter of the flaws using customers to rate things. Customers aren't good at seeing quality. That's just it. The endorsements are based on demand. They are not based on quality. This is something that a lot of people don't understand, is that just because the newest Call of Duty game is popular and has sold extremely well does not make it good. I think that a lot of my regular viewers will know that I prefer Morrowind over Skyrim. If I was forced to make the choice, I'd prefer Oblivion over Skyrim, I'd prefer Skyrim over Morrowind, but sales speak for themselves. Each game is getting successively more popular. People want to say that Fallout 4 was the worst thing ever, but Fallout 4 sold extremely well, and Bethesda is proud of that. So, let me ask you, isn't it a fallacy to equate popularity with quality? Isn't it instead more reasonable to say most people are dumb and will settle for things that aren't as good? Or maybe people just don't have the same taste as you do. I think that's really what it comes down to, is you may feel that you have more refined taste than the common individual. And so you are a better judge of quality. In which case it sounds like you should be curating these things. What you're seeing is bulk popularity based not on quality, but based on demand. You think the solution of this issue is to employ critics to take the time to dissect products. Yes. Which is why, when someone finds that their taste aligns with someone else, they follow that person's opinion more often. What a lot of people don't get with my opinion is I like Skyrim, but I like it for different reasons. And I'm not blindly loyal to Skyrim, you know. I think that Oblivion had a better combat system, specifically with magic. People very often get disillusioned when it turns out that I like a shit ton of games that come from Japan. That I like a shit ton of retro-inspired platformers. That I like a wide variety of things, and not just the one thing they've decided to drive their focus into. Turns out I don't just play Elder Scrolls games. So it confuses people who want my opinion on stuff and realize that the next open world sensation I have no interest in. People generally like to think they're more picky than they actually are. And very often, if they give things a chance outside of their own comfort zone, they will be able to grow as a person and enjoy a variety of things. But the most important thing is that you cannot force people to view one critic or another, and you cannot silence critics because of their likes or dislikes. If kids want to see juvenile shit, that's what PewDiePie is there for. That's what Jacksepticeye is there for. I don't hate these YouTubers, these particular ones, but they provide entertainment for a vast amount of children. Just like there's a massive amount of self-proclaimed otakus. Otaku's a terrible term, by the way. If you go around Japan proclaiming yourself an otaku, you're going to be socially ostracized because those are not good people. Being an anime fan is alright. But most people here end up being labeled as weeaboos, and for good reason. Because they don't respect their own culture, which is sad. My point, however, is that each community, each type of person is seeking out a different type of content. And yes, there is an entire subculture of Skyrim players who are seeking out sex mods and female body mods and all sorts of things. I don't think it should matter Let people go after what they want. Let people curate the things that they like. I've only curated a total of 3 mods. Worm's Tooth, Foulscar, and Undeath. Liked all 3 of them, by the way, for different reasons and to different extents. I showcased them. I did a full playthrough on my YouTube channel. I frequently run with the HDT button breast physics mod for Skyrim for the giggles on a live stream, but I've never actually reviewed the mod because I didn't need to. I don't think I leave endorsements on anything, really, because the Nexus's endorsement system has been kind of garbage to begin with. It is a popularity contest, and ultimately, by showcasing a mod on one of my YouTube videos, I get it an infinitely higher amount of recognition than it would have gotten from my single endorsement. But this is where he starts really going away with this. So, we've got him talking about MXR and the various big critics. We had Gopher's Mod Spotlight. Gopher had always struck me as kinda a little boring, a little slow, a little on the, I want to say, very low energy scale. And I feel that he's gotten better with that over time, with his Let's Plays and things like that. The problem is I don't have time to watch Let's Plays these days. I'm busy producing my own content or live streams. So the result is that, you know, even though he's gotten better, he's already finished his mod Spotlight. We got Bro Duel. They have this very formal presence about them. And Bro Duel, I have to say, they're the best. Because, again, it's very formal, very nice. But Bro Duel's Patreon, their attempt to make their showcases a full-time job, it failed. And I think the reason it failed is not due to the lack of demand, but I think it was due to the fact that they don't have a personality or presence that they put forth. They made themselves so professional that we couldn't relate to either of the brothers in Bro Duel. I can't even tell one apart from the other. I never see them as people. I see them as informational showcases that would be subsidized by a larger site like, I don't know, The Escapist or something like that. And speaking of digital magazines, of course, we got the GameSpot review series, which, you know, eventually all but Bro Duel died out. Well, Bro Duel has scaled back massively after their Patreon campaign failed. And I can't blame them for doing that because they have to put real life first. I'm very lucky to have some extremely supportive viewers on my Patreon and donating during live streams to keep me doing what I'm doing, for the most part, full time. I used to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week in sales, and I've since scaled back to a part-time job. The beginning of the year is always a pain in the ass, but as the year ramps up, so does my production. My point here is that there is nothing stopping you from being a professional reviewer. All you need is the audience willing to back you. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating for some people because you had the mod author, the creator of Luftarin, who was going to go full-time and finish Luftarin. ZeniMax told her, no, shut down her Patreon. She cannot fund Luftarin. In other words, modding Skyrim could not be her job. You had another author who made a Dark Brotherhood expansion mod. It was really good, but it was half finished. It was part 1 of 2. He went to Kickstarter and actually tried to put up a campaign for part 2 where he would stop accepting all consultation work and live off that income. And he would have it done before the year was up. But the amount of money he asked for was specifically to finance himself during that year so that he could devote all his professional time to that. And I thought that was a great idea, but ZeniMax had other ideas, and he was told very quickly he couldn't do it. Likewise, there was a mod author who created a romance mod where you could play as a female character and you could play through Skyrim as if it were a female romance novel. I've read a few of the ones my wife has bought, romance novels that is, so I have a general idea of the gist of, you know, what the mod was supposed to be versus what it was, and it was pretty damn close to the sappy, oh, I think I've fallen in love with you NPCs, you know, what you would expect in a book. So, what happens is, again, she tried to kickstart the voice work because she wanted professional quality voices for it. And she wanted to pay her voice actors professional salaries for it. And nope. So people who really want to devote their passion to Skyrim modding have been unilaterally told by ZeniMax, no, you cannot do it. This is our intellectual property, and it's not your right. Of course, this is after the paid mods shenanigans, which, keep in mind that I am fundamentally in favor of paid modding. But I'm talking about the original paid modding back when id Software went and said, hey, that's a very nice level pack you got there. Let's make it an expansion pack. Hey, that's another great level pack you got there. Let's make that the second expansion pack. And that's what they did. They contracted these third-party companies saying, this is a great level pack, but you need to tighten up this, fix that, make it to these standards. And when they were done, they had a professional quality expansion pack. And it's pretty amazing when you think about it. The idea that these companies will actually take a person's, you know, hobby and say, we can make money out of this, let's do it together. And that's what ended up happening in the early days of modding, back during Doom and Quake. id Software was great at this. Well, fast forward to Steam and Skyrim, and this is hilarious. What ended up happening is Valve offered this system. We will take care of file hosting, we'll take care of credit card processing, and we will go ahead, we'll give you a platform to put it on, and we'll give you curation tools to make sure that only the best of the best gets put forth as official sellable products. And do you know what they said? Bethesda or ZeniMax or whoever was in that negotiation said, there will be no curation. Valve shrugged and said, okay, are you sure you don't want quality control on this? And apparently, this was a deal breaker. They expressly said no curation, so Valve just kind of threw up their hands and said, okay. And that is how we had the immersive Apple and the Akatosh armor and all the other broken stuff, because ZeniMax or Bethesda or whoever, they wanted to push that right out the door as quickly as possible. And we had no quality control. The people who were told, like Chesko, who were told, you can make a living at this, were thrown under the bus. Because it was a mess. And that's the way ZeniMax wanted it. ZeniMax did not want to have any administrative responsibility whatsoever. They wanted an open marketplace where people could sell their mods. That's it. No responsibility on the company's behalf. The community unilaterally rejected that idea. Mostly because they didn't want to pay for mods, but partly, and what lent great credibility to this, was the fact that you could just put up any old shite, stuff that broke other people's mods, that broke the game itself, and charge for it. It was madness. Utter, complete madness. There are paid mod systems up right now for Team Fortress 2 and Warframe. You can upload your custom models and weapons and skins and all kinds of things up on either Team Fortress 2 or Warframe's 10th gen via the Steam Workshop. and it will be reviewed by the company, specifically Valve or Digital Extremes, and they will determine whether or not they want it in their game. Now, Digital Extremes and Valve both have a list, rankings, and people are allowed to click on the mod they want and say, I want this, and it'll push it up on their review list. Thus, things with more votes get reviewed quicker. But a lot of things that are of extremely high quality, getting extremely high amount of votes, get turned down due to some technical imperfection or something broken with it, because the companies actually review their shit. Paid modding was a thing that could have been great, that could have been professional, and it wasn't. And we have Bethesda to blame. We have ZeniMax to blame. And I realize that that creates a level of resentment, that you have YouTubers like myself who can profit off of the showcasing of mods, whereas you yourself, a mod maker, cannot benefit at all. It sucks. It really sucks. And I understand that. But you cannot squelch someone else just because you don't agree with that policy. You can, but it might come back to bite you in the form of litigation later. This is where we get into the mod reviews. He's talking about MXR in this point, where he says, Eleonora, the modder, in case you don't know, has a way of assembling fruits in a basket. I let her assemble my fruits in my baskets any day. You know what I'm saying? MXR is juvenile. He's childish. He is what the newer generation wants. What kids associate with. His stuff really isn't aimed at mature adults. And as such, the mods he showcases and the way he showcases them are meant to be that way. He says it might be easy to see MXR as a hapless clown blundering into success, but no human is completely stupid. Even horses, dogs, cats recognize patterns that are more likely to be conscious behaviors that result in a benefit. Yes. So he says the hapless clown did not accidentally name all of his videos with suggestive titles and clickbait-esque questions accompanied with pictures of women in various sexual poses. Those made money. Puts forth clickbait shit, knowing it's clickbait shit. And if you click on it, either because it's clickbait or you know it's another episode of Mod Reviews, doesn't matter. He profits from it. If you are coming onto my video specifically to disagree with me and giving me a thumbs down and a nasty comment, I'm benefiting from that. Why do you think there's a series called What If Elder Scrolls Online Was Good? Do you think I'm completely innocent? No one's completely innocent. They act in their own best interests, you nit. So he has no problem with MXR's channel except for misogyny, casual prejudice, immaturity, tastelessness. All right, let's go in that reverse order here. He's tasteless and he's immature. Yes, he is. Now, as for his prejudice and misogyny, I really don't know what you're fucking talking about. If he were a misogynist pig, it's very unlikely he'd be with his current girlfriend. I know a lot of people look at some of the skimpy armor mods and stuff I run with. It's like, this virgin really needs to get a life. Like, yeah, I'll go tell my wife that. No, seriously. I think that a lot of people don't realize that just because you refuse to be politically correct, that doesn't automatically make you a misogynist. I mean, it's like saying, my wife wants to be a housewife once we buy a house. Oh, that's internalized misogyny. She doesn't want to have a career of her own. Like, fuck you. I haven't seen any evidence of misogyny or casual prejudice, and if you check out MXR's girlfriend's videos, she likes to use very similar mods to him, and she seems to be fairly passionate about what she does. So I think you're full of shit. And, you know, what did I say earlier? Hashtag not all women. More like hashtag all prudes. Seriously, how many people are just being prudish when they're saying that people are anti-women? I mean, it's like people have this mental image where all women burn their bras and they hate sex. Well, I hate to say it, but a lot of women like their bras and they like sex. Yeah, some of the tits and ass may seem goofy, but I think they can find some good old-fashioned smut in a romance novel or two. I think that we aren't that different creatures, and that what it really comes down to is difference in personal tastes. You don't like what he brings to the table, and that's fine. You don't have to consume his content. But to be angry that other people find quality in his content. No one wants to hate other people's shit. The people who want to hate things just baffle me. They just baffle me completely. You don't make it a part of your life. You ignore it. You say the right to free speech is a quaint thing. Now, I have actually deleted comments, and I have censored certain things which were under my roof, under my dome, as it were. The best thing about websites, about YouTube, about anywhere you want to go, is that you have your own platform to say what you want at any time. I think that is expressed via an article like this. You have the right to say whatever you want in this article, and I have the right to respond to it in my own house. Now, if I responded in the way I'm responding now in the Nexus, they'd delete my comment. They'd ban my account. So I'm not going to do that. But I am going to avail myself of my own platform to say, "You're full of shit, sir." I would like to take a moment to point out that I have not permitted MXR to review my mod. I would only be able to do so if I had the 100% guarantee that he would not profit, and hence would not be a part of what I consider to be an unjust system. It is simply a matter of my own rigid principles. Here we go. You do not have the right to deny review of anything. Of anything. Everyone has the right to talk about whatever they want. You cannot squelch criticism or showcasing of the things you make. That's not how this works. I understand the inherent unfairness of the system, where you cannot profit, but he can. However, you don't have the right to squelch a review. You can take the video down if it contains your content. You have the physical ability to do that. But the physical ability to do that is not the same as the legal right. You'll find that he will submit a counterclaim, and then you will have, during which time, to either agree to meet him in court, or to allow the video to be reinstated. That's assuming he's made a video at all. I don't know if he has or not. Your own rigid principles are at odds with the law in this case, and one of them will have to break. You say you're not calling for the titillation or silly joke mods to be eradicated, you're just asking for MXR to stop doing what he's doing as a creator. All human creativity is valuable, and just because one mere human such as you feels an adverse reaction doesn't mean it should be sacrificed so you can feel better. This is a serious problem. If MXR stopped doing what he did right now, other people such as Shinji or other mod reviewers who are kept in the 10, 15, 20,000 range, they would receive MXR's viewership. There is an internal demand. You can't instantly eradicate this sort of thing. These mods are being reviewed by other people, regardless. And structures of power don't go away just because you kill a ruler. If you kill a ruler, another ruler, typically one who is even less reserved, will take his place. That's how structures of power in human society work. But either way, the mod author has a list of steps he believes that will make the world better, or at least make the Skyrim modding community better. I don't agree. I think that everything will stay as it is because that is the way people think, the way people act. Ultimately, you may very well sway a small portion of the population. That's good. That's good. We should always be encouraging new thoughts and ideas. However, they must be informed ideas. They must be objective. And I think you covered that in your first point where you encourage people to download smutty mods. There is a website called loverslab.com where you can find outright pornography. You will find it is called Sex Lab, I believe. It is a framework by which sexual actions can run through the Finis framework. It allows for rape, slavery, beatings, torture, pissing, shitting, pregnancy, milking, and many other things. They're not going to go away just because you want them to. They're a well-established community, and MXR is doing nothing but giving the people who aren't fully into that depravity, you know, that there are outsiders. It's giving them a buffer zone where titillation versus outright porn. You see what I'm saying? MXR is actually one of the more decent people, one of the more classy people in that sphere of things. He's reviewed a Lover's Lab mod or two. I believe the Skooma Whore mod, for instance, was actually the best drug mod ever made, and if you could detach it from its sexual functions and remove Sex Lab entirely, I would use it on a regular basis because it is that well crafted. In fact, I would recommend looking at just how detailed the Sex Lab framework is and realizing that Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons is a tiny little mod in comparison to the collaborative masterworks that the perverts have put forth for the sake of satisfying human desire. I don't use those mods personally. I don't have time for that shit. I'm married. We occasionally look at dirty things, but more of a casual, rather than any kind of actual desire from it. But honestly, what this has come down to is it looks like you're trying to control who is able to showcase your work. You can't do that. You can physically take their stuff down, but you may be required to stand for any kind of legal repercussions that come for that. This has been Zarek Zahakaran. Really hoping we can get over this shit and get the Skyrim Special Edition script extender running sometime next year, because it doesn't look like the author has had much work on it, unfortunately, but it's something we're looking forward to. The community is still alive and running. It's just mostly been put into hibernation because a lot of Skyrim's work was curtailed by Fallout 4. A lot of Fallout 4's work was curtailed by the Skyrim Special Edition. And now we're sitting here with a Special Edition that doesn't have all the modding features we want in it. We need time, and we're still going to see new mods. We're going to see lots of mods that this particular mod author, Sisypheus, doesn't like. And that's unfortunate. But you know what? There are sexual mods for Morrowind. There's sexual mods for Oblivion. There's sexual mods for Doom. Stop being a prude and just don't consume the content. And don't lash out at a world where people are driven by their baser desires. Just seek to rise above it and be that person who stands on their morals. I'm not talking about the petty person who takes down other people's work because he doesn't like it, that they're profiting off of it. No, I'm talking about stand on your morals and be a person who can persevere and succeed despite those. If you are truly righteous, then people will see you for being truly righteous, and they will respond to you. If, however, you're just being petty with a veneer of pretentiousness over it, they'll see through that. I leave it to you, viewers. This is the mod author's website. If you want to hear more from him, the article that is being shown on screen right now will be listed in a pinned comment along with the actual Nexus page for Tinvaak-Talking with Dragons. Check out the mod. Tell me what you think about it. Check out the article. Tell me what you think about it. And I want to know your opinions. This is a discussion, and I don't want you to just watch this video and then reply. I want you to actually read it or skim over it or to just go over his 7 main points. And let's see if we agree or disagree or what. Thank you for watching. Check the links on screen for more content, and I will see y'all next time.